It's interesting how your goals really dictate everything. They dictate the journey, they dictate the yes or no's, they dictate your options, they dictate your time, everything. What you say yes and no to is probably the biggest thing, but it's very interesting.
Along the way, this is why goal achievement and success and fulfillment are so challenging, because you have to constantly reevaluate.
Next Level Nation, welcome back to another very special, as always, episode of Next Level University, where we teach you how to level up your life, your love, your health, and your wealth. We hope you enjoyed our latest episode, number 1047, Understanding the Seasons of Success. Today, for episode number 1048, why specific goals are so important. I had, Alan, somebody recently reached out to me who we have seen this person in the past, and we have met this person actually in person, and I don't know if we were on their podcast. I don't even know if they have a podcast, but this person reached out to me and said, "Hey, how's everything going? I hope you're doing well." And I said, nice. I love when people reach out to see how we're doing. I love connecting. Awesome. I said, "I'm doing awesome. We're doing awesome. How are you? How's everything with you?" And the person said, "Awesome. I'm just doing the podcast rounds. I released a book recently, and I'm just going on a lot of shows." And I could see that this was becoming a pitch of sorts. I could tell that this person was reaching out to me to come on our show. Mm-hmm. And I said, "Awesome. So glad to hear it. I hope that's going amazing. I actually went on a bunch of shows recently as well. Things have been great over here." And that I just kind of left it there. But this is the interesting thing. When I last, so I don't follow this person anymore, but when I last followed them, I think they had maybe a couple thousand followers, and now they have 75,000 followers. So I did Detective Kev, and I went to their profile and I started looking at their stuff, and it became abundantly clear to me pretty quickly that this person has a lot of fake followers and fake likes and fake views. And it's very disheartening to a degree for me to see that, because our specific goals are to impact as many people as humanly possible, while a lot of people in the industry, their specific goals are to make it look like they're impacting as many people as humanly possible. And it frustrates me, and I don't mean it with ego, but it frustrates me that there's a lot of people who want to look more successful than they actually are, and they're focused, and their specific goal is to look more successful than they really are. I've told this story in the past, but I had a client one time who said, "I want to get to 10,000 podcast downloads a month." And I said, "That's definitely possible as long as you're willing to do these things." And that person came back to me a couple weeks later and said, "Hey, I found somebody else who does similar work to what you guys do, but they have this big community of people, and that's going to help me get to 10,000 downloads a month." And I was like, "Definitely not. But again, I want what's best for you. If that's what you want to do, go do that." The problem is the person that this client went and worked with, their specific goals is to get as many clients as possible, not to help as many clients as possible. And your goal determines the strategy. Your goal determines the standard. Your goal determines the relationship. Your goal determines absolutely everything. Setting specific goals is so important because it is going to determine the strategy that you must take in order to accomplish it. So you got to make sure you're setting your goals correctly, not only based on your core values and everything that you want to do to accomplish it, but it's hard, Alan, because I think so many people don't necessarily think they're going to accomplish the goal. And when they're setting specific goals, maybe they want to line it up so it looks like they're winning along the way. And we did that. We talked about that. What episode was it? Hold on. We talked about that in Understanding the Seasons of Success. One of the hardest parts for people when they set specific goals is the very beginning, because you're not going to look like you're winning. But that's where you have to tap into, well, my specific goal is impact, so I have to do the right things, and that usually means playing the long game. And it's hard. That's a hard balance.
Well, I think you have to get through the beginning part where when you set a goal, and if you're a beginner at this craft or this thing, like this podcaster was, you're going to have to put in the hard yards to try to figure out how to learn and grow and scale, or you can take shortcuts. And I think that it's difficult in the hard yards to deal with the pain of not looking successful, especially when a lot of people in the beginning of a journey, when you're going to start a podcast or start a dream or whatever, they usually don't believe in you. And so if you struggle with self-belief and you have people around you who are saying that was a bad idea, and then you have the evidence to prove that it was a short-term bad idea, but in the long term you could actually succeed, I think it's understandable, but I also don't want to make it okay. There's a big difference between when I used to make money in the industrial automation industry, I used to dislike that career, not because I wasn't making a lot of money and not because I wasn't achieving my goals. That was in alignment with my goal. My goal, ever since I was very young, was to be a Fortune 50 CEO like my hero Steve Jobs. And I was on my way to that. The problem is that I was selling industrial automation equipment, and I would literally go into these large manufacturing facilities, and the equipment that we would sell would actually take people's jobs, because the more automation in a factory there is, the more robotics and machine vision. I sold machine vision equipment essentially, which is the eyes of robots. So picture, a big factory that is run by, a bunch of servo mechanisms and robots and all that kind of stuff. The machine vision cameras was what I sold, and so the people that were in those factories, the more equipment that I sold, the less workers they need. And so industrial automation is coming, and I've talked about that a lot for all of us, and so we all have to reinvent ourselves, but I don't necessarily have to be the one profiting from that. And so what I tried to do, Kev, is when I did leave corporate America, I left that job, I said, okay, I just spent a couple years in an industry that does take jobs. And there's some benefits to that too, because the company saves money, and then therefore the consumer can eventually save money too. But ultimately, it's not as integrous as what I would like to do with my life. And so I said, you know what? I'm going to make up for it now. I want to equip people with the tools necessary and the knowledge necessary and the expertise necessary and the education necessary to go reinvent their life, so that when robotics and automation comes, they can have a fulfilling life and they can have a successful life. And so to the original point that Kevin was making, when you set a goal to make more money, but you don't specify, I want to make more money by impacting people in a positive way, I want to make more money. Okay, go sell cigarettes. Right? But when you specify, I want to make more money by helping people improve the quality of their life through self-improvement, see, now it gets very narrow. Now buying followers is no longer aligned. And it's really, really important to understand that when you set a goal, if it's not a clear goal that specifies the way in which you intend to align with it, it's going to be very difficult for you to stay within the rails of that integrity. And so, Emilia asked me one time, what are you most proud of? And my answer is always the same. I'm not just proud of the fact that we're growing and scaling and making a lot of money now. What I'm proud of is the way we make our money. We produce a bunch of, I think it's 18 other podcasts that are in the self-improvement space. Some of them are in some different spaces, but essentially it's how to be better. And then on top of that, the coaching, the group coaching, the consulting, all of it is very specific to heart-driven people who want to make a positive impact in the world. And so how we make our money is what I value most. Because making money is one thing. Making money in the most integrous way that you believe is aligned with what the world needs is a whole nother thing. I digress. The point of this episode is for everyone out there listening or watching this to check in with their goals and to see whether or not those goals are clear enough to keep them in integrity with their own core values. And also, we're going to piggyback on top of that and talk a little bit about strategy and how what I've found, and I'll tell this story briefly. I was on the phone with a client recently, and she basically came to me and said, listen, Alan, I want to be undeniable. And she elaborated, I don't want anyone to be able to go anywhere else for coaching or for therapy and have them be able to do that. I want to be able to be the best coach for them. I want to be able to be the best coach for them. And I want to be a better coach. I need to be a better coach. I want to get better. I want to learn what you know and what you do. And I said, okay, awesome. So I'm going to coach you on how to coach. And we started to go from the very beginning. And I took her through the pyramid of how I understand the universe. And at the tail end of this pyramid, which is pretty drastic, she's like, I don't understand. Like, how do you know all this? And I simply said I had to know all this in order to achieve my goal. I said, the only reason you are knowing this now is because you decided to be the best coach you can be. I decided to be the best coach I can be 7.5 years ago. That's why I know all of this. I had to know all this to achieve my goals. That's what I told her. And so learning, it's interesting. Everyone out there, think about this for a second. You know exactly the amount you needed to know to get to this point. We don't learn for the sake of learning. That's not like a thing. Like if I wanted to be a mechanic, I would go to school to become a mechanic and I would go learn about cars. I don't know anything about cars because I don't need to achieve my goal. But in terms of coaching, neuroscience, human behavior, psychology, cognitive biases, podcasting, communication, oratory, see all of these things I need to go learn about in order to achieve my goals. Kevin learned about sales because he had to learn how to sell in order for NLPS to be successful. So in a way, all of us are constantly filtering information out that is not relevant to our goals. And so yes, if you're hunting for deer, you're going to not notice the squirrel down the road. But if you're starving to death and your goal is to just eat, you're going to notice the squirrel and eat that, right? And again, it's a weird analogy, but it is true. And so that's kind of what Kevin and I wanted to check in with everybody is like, if you don't have clear, specific goals, it's going to be very difficult for you to optimize your life and your learning and your strategies around those. And the chances of you stumbling upon, randomly your goal is just, it's very, very low.
How do you set specific, can you set specific goals without first setting goals? You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a great
You got to know the area of the map before you choose.
Yeah, it's almost like, this is the analogy I used on Relationship Talks. I'm grateful you brought this up. I said, it's interesting. It's kind of like, okay, let's imagine so we're from the States, as everyone knows. Let's say you're in Massachusetts, like Kevin. So Kevin's in New Hampshire and I'm in Massachusetts. And let's say we're like, yo, man, road trip. You want to go on a road trip? You and me, man? Awesome. Hey. All right, we're going to go to California. And the GPS that we use to get to California will be useful up until we cross into California. Now it's like, okay, where in California? Oh, okay, well, let's go to LA. It's like, okay, then once you get to LA, the GPS is like, okay, well, where in LA? Oh, okay, we're gonna go to Venice Beach. I spent some time in LA, so the courts at Venice Beach. We're gonna play basketball on the courts in Venice Beach. It's beautiful.
Pass.
Yeah, there's some people that can dunk from the foul line. It's very humbling. But anyways, okay, once we get to the Venice Beach, okay, which parking lot are we gonna try to go to? Which court? There's actually courts all along the strip. So which court? So in a way, you kind of have to set a broad goal and then work toward that direction. And then once you get closer and closer and closer, you can kind of hone in on it. And so hopefully that answers your question. But the key is to constantly be setting goals and then resetting them based on your new awareness. You have to set the goal to go to California in order for the GPS to work for the first majority of the journey. But once you get into California, you got to recalibrate. Yeah. You got to figure out, okay, where do I actually want to go in Cali? Oh, okay, you know what? Let's go to San Francisco instead of LA. Oh, okay, now where in San Francisco? Oh, okay, let's go see the redwoods. Oh, okay, which part of the forest? And so I think that's kind of what we're doing and what we've done over the last 5 years as well, individually and collectively.
Yeah, I think it's very easy to look at it from like a micro perspective. So, and you can connect the dots. So Taryn and I don't know if it was like a year and a half ago, whenever it was, we said, okay, we're going to get married in the near future, like 2022, end of 2022 was kind of our thought. And it was like, okay, our specific goal is to get married at that point in the year. All right, what has to happen next? We went and looked at venues. So our specific goal was to get a venue that had a great view. Awesome. We went, it was like $30,000 for the venue. Our new specific goal became, how do we find something that is cheaper but just as much of a memory maker. We said, okay, we want to elope. Our next specific goal became we're going to elope. Now, so many things get thrown off the table. So I think there's only like 4 or 5 states that you can elope in where you don't have to have somebody preside over like a professional preside over it. So we're going to Colorado. One of the reasons is the specific goal was we want to go up into the mountains and elope with our photographer and videographer that are going to be there with us. And one of them can literally like sign the paperwork as a witness, right? So, okay, why Colorado? Well, that's one. But the other part of it, one of the specific goals is we wanted to have a bunch of photos and video of beautiful mountains. Okay, cool. Another specific goal is we wanted to kind of have our honeymoon built in, right? So that one decision to get married or elope in our example brings you 15 different steps, but every one gets a little bit more specific, a little bit more specific. One of the things, we haven't said this in a long time, Alan, but one of the reasons we don't do ads on the podcast is because we have a specific goal not to. Mm-hmm. It's not that we couldn't. Like, we could definitely get sponsorships or we could run ads, but our specific goal is to help our community at the deepest level. And we believe that it's much better for me to talk about my coaching or me to talk about Alan's coaching because you're staying in the community and we believe that's what's best. That's our specific goal. I mean, that's a specific belief. And our goal is to make sure that we add as much value as humanly possible. I don't want, whatever, almond milk. It's like, hey guys, today's video is brought to you by Jeff and Jeff almond milk. If you want 10% off, and there's nothing wrong with that, but our specific goal is to make this, it's just Alan and I and you, if you're listening to this. And occasionally we'll have guests when that's aligned, but it's interesting how your goals really dictate everything. They dictate the journey, they dictate the yes or no's, they dictate your options, they dictate your time, everything. What you say yes and no to is probably the biggest thing, but it's very interesting.
Hi everyone. It was so awesome to meet you during our group coaching, G6. The reason I signed up in the first place is that I've been really doing self-improvement in all of my adult life, but I've been doing it on my own. I've been reading books, I read books and listen to podcasts and everything, but signing up for group coaching is having a group of people all working towards the same thing, bettering their lives financially, health-wise, relationships, just all of it. It's the full package. So I believe everyone could benefit from group coaching. Doesn't matter, how successful you've been in the past. How many other groups that you've joined up. This is something different. I absolutely know that Kevin and Alan are changing lives and will do so much more, and I can't wait to see where this goes. Thanks. Bye, everyone.
Well, the moment the goal changes, everything else has to change. I use the interesting analogy of like whenever something changes in math theory, all the other sciences have to change. It's kind of like that with a goal. The moment you start with a new goal or a new core value, then you have to go, and this is what I said to a client recently, and I use this on the podcast on purpose because it's really relatable, and everyone has been in this experience at least at some point, unless they're very, very young, in which case, I don't know if young people are still going to the malls regularly. I'm sure they probably are, but I know the malls were struggling after COVID. Anyways, you go into the mall, and you get to the kiosk, and the kiosk is a big map of this massive mall. And what I told this new client, I'm very pumped to start working with her. I said, this is what happens. A client comes to me and they say, okay, you are here. There's a big red arrow that says you are here on this map. They think that you are here when in reality, you're actually over here. So imagine the map is wrong. Imagine going into a mall and you want to go to the Apple store, but the Apple store on the map is not really where it says on the map. And you might not even want the Apple store. The product you want is actually at Microsoft. And on top of that, the big red arrow that says you are here is wrong. And on top of that, the escalator's down, so you're going to have to take the elevator, which you might be scared to do. This is the analogy of what my coaching is like. It's kind of like, okay, well, you're not really here, you're actually here. And you don't really want that, you actually want this. And by the way, the escalator is not going to get you there. The elevator will, though. And that's the knowing where you want to go knowing how you want to get there and knowing where you actually are. Self-awareness, clear specific goals and skills and capabilities on how to get there. And that's what this podcast really is. Health, wealth, and love. Where are you now? Where do you want to go? Next level. And then how are we going to get to the next level? And so in this mall analogy, there's 3 levels, and the Apple Store is on the other side of the mall, or Microsoft or whatever. You have to go to the next level and then the next level in order to get there. And your dreams and your goals can evolve once you get there. And you can, just like Kevin, you can realize like, okay, you know what? I'm not going to spend $30,000 on a venue. I would much rather be up in the mountains with a nice photographer or videographer, you know, and okay, where can we do that? Well, it's not really important to us to have a big wedding, but what is important to us is mountains and nature and being there together and having awesome footage. Okay, well then let's reallocate that $30,000 to those things rather than this massive venue. And so along the way, this is why goal achievement and success and fulfillment are so challenging, because you have to constantly reevaluate. I mean, Kevin's first financial goal was $2 million. And, you know, it's interesting because I was just on the phone with someone who's very, very young, and he's already surpassing that. You know, this is a client of mine. And it's like, Kev, you didn't know it at the time, but that's not that big of a goal for a business owner. You know, if a business, I'll give you an example, like your local McDonald's, if you're out there watching or listening to this, is probably worth more than $1 million right now, given where real estate is right now. And that might change, obviously. But it's just interesting how when you gain awareness, you have to reevaluate the goal. And then the goal is what creates the new awareness. Because without a goal, you wouldn't even have, like if you two didn't say, okay, we want to get married at the tail end of 2022, you wouldn't have started even doing that research. And so it's a very symbiotic relationship. Goals, learning, actions, what you say yes and no to. And I guess on this podcast, what we want to help you do is consistently hone and check in on that process. Because if you don't have clear, specific goals, you're probably not going to be able to maximize the probability that you actually get there. Not even probably, you definitely can't. And there's a lot of neuroscience and biology and biochemistry and math and science behind all this. You know, if you don't know what you're after, it's going to be very difficult for your brain to pick up on the way to get there.
Last story I have, as I mentioned, I hung out with one of my buddies last weekend, and we were playing golf on the PlayStation, because that's what we like to do. We used to play a lot of Call of Duty. Alan, I know you know COD.
Yeah.
One of the reasons we don't is because it's very hard to have a conversation where you're in the middle of a virtual war, and you can't really talk about life or what's going on in life. So
you certainly can't do well and do that.
No, you can't do both. Our specific goal was to have fun and catch up, not just get buried in video games for 6 hours and not talk. Because we've been guilty of that in the past, where we'll just hang out and play Call of Duty and not talk about anything. So, yeah, the specific goal determines the outcome. It determines the experience. It determines everything. Next Level Nation. Oh, you got something?
I did have something small.
Can you do it quickly?
Quick.
I have
Super
to.
fast.
Can I give a word from our sponsor first?
Yeah. Almond milk. Jeff Almond milk.
Jeff Almond milk. Yeah.
This client who wants to be a better coach always asks me. She has a certain curriculum of books that she's reading, and based on as soon as the goal changes, immediately I have her shift what book she's reading, because it's like, if the goal is to be a better speaker, I have a certain number of books that you should read. If your goal is to be a better coach and consultant and learn business, these books are what you should read. Everything you're reading, everything you're doing, it really should shift depending on what outcomes you want in your life. If your most important goal is to have a magnificent family, then that's going to change the way you operate than if you want to build $1 billion business. And that's okay. And there's a way to try to integrate the two as well. I'm certainly going to try to do that as well. But it's really important to understand and stop kidding ourselves around this. If you want to go to California versus, Wyoming, it's going to be a different journey. You're going to have to take different turns. You're going to have to join up with different people. You're going to have to face different fears. You're going to have to take a different type of car. And again, it's just it's super important for you to be very, very honest about that. And in my coaching, what I've started doing, Kev, and I'm doing a much better job of this now, is realizing that everything I teach people really is predicated on their goals, not what I think they would want if they were to shoot as high as they could. I'm starting to understand, okay, let me give them what goal do they want to achieve? Okay, let me help them achieve that. And then what I'm doing is I'm checking in. Like, are you sure you still want that? Because if you don't, that's okay. This is what I do believe it will take. And a lot of my clients have said, you know what? And I'll be very quick about this, I promise, Kev. I had a client who wanted to have the most successful production company in Canada. And we looked it up. And he's like, oh, no, I don't want that. And I was like, brother, I appreciate you, man, but I've been reverse engineering that. Like, you don't want to do that, then everything I've been teaching you has to change. You know? And so now I'm understanding, okay, I got to get very clear with people in advance of like, what do you actually want? Because otherwise my coaching's not going to be aligned with the lifestyle you want.
If you want something, tell Jeff and he will help you get it, but you got to be very careful about what you tell him you want, because he will find a way to get it for you. You know
that's
what I mean?
a fact. Sponsored by Almond Milk.
Almond Milk, Jeff and Jeff. Next Level Nation, we have a wonderful, wonderful 7th group of group coaching. They are amazing, amazing, amazing human beings. I think we have our 2nd call tomorrow as of the day of recording this. Our 8th group opens on October 4th, Tuesday, October 4th, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you are looking for more growth, you're looking for more awareness, you're looking to get to the next level of your life, and you're looking to meet other people in the process, please join our 8th round of group coaching. Alan just slid off and he has grabbed something, so I'm guessing it's some sort of piece of literature.
This episode brought to you by the Next Level Book Club. So I went and grabbed the book. It's Dare to Lead by Brene Brown. We're doing the 3rd chapter this Saturday. This book has been magnificent in book club. The last one was The Call to Courage. The next one is going to be this week's topic. Hold on. Drum roll, please. Rumbling with vulnerability. You have to put yourself out there if you want to achieve your dreams. And this one's talking about the armory. How do we put down the armor and be vulnerable? Because the walls we build up to protect ourselves from the bad people that are trying to hurt us or the bad situations are also keeping out all of the good people and all the people that want to help and support you. So putting down my armor has been one of the most challenging things on this journey. Brene Brown's work has helped me tremendously become a better leader. So I hope you join us. And book club is not just about learning. It's taking action and implementation. So at the end of every single book club, we all put in the chat our intention for the week. And then in our private WhatsApp group, we all check in with each other about those intentions. So it's not just about learning, it's about really implementing. And you don't have to have read the chapter. You can just join in on the discussion. You can keep your camera off and your microphone off if you want. Some people start small and do that and then eventually join in once they feel more comfortable. The key is a psychologically safe space for people to be themselves and learn from extraordinary books with extraordinary people.
You said, I was going to say that. I was going to say next level books with next level people. I was also holding in a sneeze for quite a long time there. So if you saw me going like this, that was why. It wasn't anything that you said.
Okay. Thanks for letting me know that.
I just want to make sure. You're very welcome. I just want to make sure that you didn't think I was poo-pooing your plug.
Oh, no, I didn't think that. I thought that was a strong one.
Yeah, it was very strong. All right, we're going to take off now.
Thanks,
Next Level Nation tomorrow for episode number 1049. Understanding yourself when you are scarce. We talked, it's been a long time since we talked about state, but everything from the way you approach a situation to the amount of stress you can handle to your patience is very dependent on the state that you are in. So we're going to talk about that and how you can get familiar with how you react to different situations in different states. As always, we love you. We appreciate you. We are grateful for each and every one of you. And at NLU, we do not have fans. We have family. We will talk to you all tomorrow.
Please reach out.